Well, this is election update on December the 5th. I guess the focus is largely on the Atlanta hearings and the video, which is from the Atlanta hearings. Um, so basically, we're continuing to get court rejections. A Democrat judge in Nevada did not, dismissed the case that Trump had brought, even though he presented a substantial amount of evidence in that case that there was significant voter fraud. In spite of that, one should view this. I like people. I think anybody that thinks our court system is fair has got to be kidding themselves. And in this case, it's clearly a Democrat judge, and so that doesn't mean anything about the validity of what's being made. The question, I guess, could be raised: did they have an adequate case to prove it? But it's expected. Guess what? Where the appeal goes, the Ninth Circuit. So, so good luck on that one for 6 electoral votes. At any rate, so I think Arizona, the Speaker of the House is not for calling a special session to nullify the results of the certification. So, as I predicted, the legislatures are not going to stand up, as I didn't think they would. And even if they did call it, they probably wouldn't win the vote because there'd be enough, weak knees that wouldn't do it. Right now, we still have a Georgia governor who won't call a special session just to fix the signature identification problem yet. Now, he says he wants to do a verification of the signatures on the ballots, but they've already been separated. So at most, you'd again just be introducing statistical evidence of fraud, which would be interesting, but does it really, solve your problem? So, but I think what is kind of important is that there's a lot of evidence that came out in the Atlanta meeting with Rudy Giuliani and the witnesses, and the video particularly, which shows that, in fact, what was being claimed all along was true, that there was no real emergency. People were told to go home, that voting was suspended. And then once all the observers were gone and all the outsiders were gone, a small number of people pulled out what's called suitcases of ballots and started counting them during the middle of the night. And during that time, as the post that's been made by Jenna Ellis on Twitter shows, that's when Biden had a massive spike in votes. Now, one thing that seems to be confusing to some people is the word a suitcase. The suitcase that we're talking about, it's not a American Tourister suitcase. That's the term that's used in Georgia for the official ballot boxes that contain ballots that are sent, from a precinct or whatever into the counting center. Okay, so forget the term suitcase. That's just the term they use. There's nothing. The good ballots and the bad ballots are all in suitcases when they come in. All right. So that's not a problem. The question is which ballots are in those cases and why were they hidden away from all the others and only counted when observers were gone? And remember, there's a lot of claims that there are bogus ballots that were somehow put in the system. There's another claim, which I still don't understand how this is even possible, that there's something like 96,000 more ballots voted than were received. Is that really right? I mean, I question that, and I don't know, but I think whoever's making the claim, we need to get to the answer. Is that true, or is that a misperception? Because if it's true, that I don't see how you can be certifying anything. If it's not true, that just needs to be cleared up. But the possibility that there were ballots, and the number of ballots counted during that period would be sufficient if they were predominantly for Biden and potentially swing the election in Georgia. So my question on that is, well, can we identify who the 4 or 5 individuals that stayed behind were, what their orientations were politically, why they stayed behind? Can they be brought before some kind of a committee, put under oath and questioned about what they were doing there, why they were staying late to work when it was announced publicly that voting had just been suspended for the evening? These are things that should be handled and should occur, and we can hope that some of the court challenges will lead to something on that. In the meantime, the thing that I should point out is that that we are going forward with the certification. At this point, I think essentially Biden is now certified as the winner by secretaries of state through the state processes. And on Tuesday, the electors will be officially certified under the safe harbor law, and then they'll vote the Monday after, which will give Biden the White House. He will be installed unless something stops it. And after that, it's just going to be basically, I think we can see a matter of court challenges, and courts are really not eager to do anything about it. And doing nothing is kind of the easy way for courts, right? I mean, I think that's what we're beginning to see here. So, on the other hand, the one thing I've got into a little bit of a Twitter thing with Linwood never responds to, but I'm pointing out on Twitter very clearly that Linwood is not doing us any favor if he suggests anybody shouldn't vote in the upcoming election in Georgia. And the reason for that is very simple. David Perdue got more votes than Ossoff, okay, by 1.7% of the total vote. And all the Republicans in the Loeffner race, and all the other ones all got more than Warnock did. Excuse me. So the point I'm making is it's a completely winnable race. And the other thing people have to understand about this, using terms like rigged or whatever, basically what we're talking about is a relatively small part of the vote that was done fraudulently. It's still quite winnable, even with all the fraud happening. If enough people get out to vote, and if we vote as strongly as we did during the presidential race on this, I think it's quite winnable in those Senate seats. Where it becomes questionable will be if people get disillusioned and don't vote. It's pretty simple. If you don't want to vote in person, just send off your absentee ballot like all the Democrats do and mail it in. It's just check 2 boxes and sign it and fill out the data on it that they have to fill and send it in. If not, go out and vote in early voting. I mean, it's not that hard. It should be fairly quick. It's not a lengthy ballot this time. And I think that's what everybody needs to do, and we'll see what happens. But I think that there'll be a lot more focus on poll watching, on observing the process than there was last time as well. I think that's one thing you can count on. Let's face it, to some degree in the Georgia race, the Republicans were caught flat-footed. Trump didn't campaign there much during the presidential, I believe 2 times during the whole campaign. And I think they thought they had it in the bag and they miscalculated. I think this time nobody's thinking we have it in the bag. So it's an all-out push now on both sides. Well, anyway, that's basically what I have for now. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens at the Supreme Court. As I understand, Alito has asked for the state of Pennsylvania to respond to the challenge that was raised by Sean Parnell and to the constitutionality of the system. And so we'll just have to see what happens next week on that. And the final thought is, it looks to me like that this will still continue to be battled up until sometime before January the 6th when the actual vote occurs. So, and conceivably even after that, potentially. I mean, we don't know what the Supreme Court might order, and we don't know how Congress would respond to various Supreme Court orders. So we're just waiting to see on that. And finally, as of yesterday, for some reason, I was kicked off of Parler. I'm not sure exactly why. I've made an appeal to their user support system, and we'll see what happens. But you won't be seeing me on there for a while, I guess. And so, at any rate, so it's much more important to subscribe to this if you want to get them, and to my channel. And you can always give me a like and send links to people. And I guess that'll be it for now. Until next time.